We're here, baby! That's right! Yes! Welcome to the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Body, feeling good today. Feeling pretty damn good. As I look upon the NFL horizon and I see the combine just passed, free agency is about to begin, the draft is in, a month or so? It's a very exciting time in the NFL. And Philadelphia Eagle fans are really chomping at the bit. They cannot wait for this offseason to begin, as they have high expectations for what this team is going to do to address the deficiencies that we saw last season. Now, before I get into what I feel the Philadelphia Eagles could do to fix a lot of their issues, a checklist, if you will, let me just say this. The draft obviously hasn't happened yet. Neither has free agency signings yet. So this is all just, projections. This is all conjecture. This is all just out of thin air, okay? And a lot of the market values are from Spot Track and other articles, and there's a lot of nuance here that has not been addressed yet. One, for example, being the trading of Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat, whether or not those things are going to fall through or not. And those are pretty important dominoes to fall because Josh Sweat is projected to make a decent amount of money, as well as Hassan Reddick. And if we trade those two contracts, get either draft picks back or some sort of compensation for them, could change the projection of how we attack free agency and the NFL draft. Also, in conjunction with that, there's rumor about Bryce Huff being a target for Philadelphia. Now, whether or not he's going to sign with Philadelphia is a whole different ballgame, considering that, he just came off a 10-sack year. He's going to ask for a lot of money. And what's a lot of money for him? Spot Rack has him making $9.2 million projection. I've read articles where he's projected to make $15 million per year, considering his age. So it's one of those things where you have to this is like a loose checklist, if you will, okay? But these are things that I believe if you can get these type of players on the roster or address these deficiencies, you could change this whole complexion of the defense pretty damn quickly. And then in conjunction with the NFL draft, which we'll address in later episodes as the time gets closer to that point, you could really shape this team into being something that's going to be around for a long time. And then all of a sudden you're cooking with fire here, right? So let's start off with this. You have about $45 million in cap space, but then just recently you signed Brandon Graham to a $4 million deal for his farewell tour. Okay? So now you have roughly $41 million left to play with. Among that $41 million, you need a good, $15 million, give or take, for the NFL draft to sign your draft picks. Because you can't just draft guys and not pay them anything. You have to have some sort of money on the side to be able to pay these guys, right? That's the whole point of being in the NFL draft, to go and get your bag, right? Change the lives of all these players. So I'm going to try my best to address free agency needs while leaving some room to be able to draft guys and be able to pay them, okay? So let's start with my favorite free agent player in the NFL right now, a player that I believe would be an instant hit in Philadelphia. Geno Stone. You've heard me say it in other episodes. You hear other channels talk about Geno Stone. The safety from Baltimore just came off a career year with 7 interceptions, and his projected market value is $7 million a year. Now, I don't know about you. That sounds pretty damn cheap for a safety who could immediately change the course of the back end for you. Considering the safety play that we got last season and the defensive back play, he would be a welcomed addition and an absolute upgrade from what we had last season. Geno Stone is 24 years old. He's a guy who, if you sign long-term, could be a cornerstone part of your franchise. He would solidify the back end for you along with Reed Blankenship and eventually Sidney Brown as he recovers from his torn ACL. He would be a really, really damn good signing, in my opinion. Probably my favorite signing if we were able to get that done. Geno Stone, low cost, high ceiling. That's the guy that I would try to go after if I'm Philadelphia, for damn sure. Now that we addressed him, the other position of need is linebacker. Now, there's one of two guys here that I feel would be a really, really damn good player for us in Philadelphia. I like one guy more in particular than the other, but they're both projected to make around $7 million per year in terms of market value for this upcoming free agency class. And the two linebackers that I'm talking about is Willie Gay, who was the inside linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then Azeez Al-Shaair, who a lot of people are talking about may be a target of Philadelphia's, who was the linebacker from Tennessee, who was originally in San Francisco, had a career year, obviously, because he got some playing time. But he had like a ridiculous number of tackles, like close to like 150, 160 tackles this past season, something insane. So a tackling machine. And he's projected to make $7 million as well. Now, I don't know if Philadelphia is going to invest close to $14 to $15 million at linebacker by signing both of these guys. But if you can land one of them, the guy that I would want is Willie Gay, in my opinion. But if you can land one of those guys to address the linebacking position, that would be a tremendous upgrade there too. Considering their youth, because they're both, 26 years old? Like I said, they're going to make $7 million a year. At least that's what Spotrac has them projected to making. And Willie Gay, I feel, would be the better signing because I know for damn sure I don't think Kansas City is going to be able to sign him back because they just paid Chris Jones a big amount of money in $95 million. And they just franchised L'Jarius Sneed, who maybe they decide to trade, maybe they keep him for 1 year to try to run it back. But he would be a huge loss for them, and he would be a huge upgrade for us because he has the ability to cover. He could run sideline to sideline. He's a good damn tackler. Was one of the leaders on the best defense just this past season in the National Football League with Kansas City. Played in big games before, and immediately would be a leader in the locker room. Considering the fact that you have Fletcher Cox retire, Jason Kelce retire, and Brandon Graham is his last year, you need a guy who's established, who has that dog in him, who's played in big games before, and can say what's what. He's one of those guys that can do that for you. You can come in with cachet, and he would be able to lead that locker room on the defensive side of the ball. So Willie Gay would be my guy, but I would not be disappointed with Azeez Al-Shaair due to his potential. So Geno Stone, roughly $7 million. Willie Gay or Azeez Al-Shaair, roughly $7 million each, right? So let's just say $14 million is off the cap, plus the $4 million that Brandon Graham has gotten. So that's what, $18 million out of the 45? Now you're working with what? 45 minus 18. Geez, what, 23? $23 million. Now I got to do the math in my. I tried doing the math in my head, and I'm just going to look like an idiot if I do so. So I'm not even going to bother. That's $27 million left on your cap right now. You got $27 million. Okay. And the last signing here is based on reports and just like kind of like my gut feeling as well. Justin Simmons, who we've mentioned in one of our previous episodes before, would be a very welcomed addition to Philadelphia, and he's projected to make $11 million per year. Now, the guy's 30 years old. He has like maybe 2 or 3 years of really good football ahead of him. He's played with Vic Fangio before and has an affinity for Vic Fangio, as he said in the past. So that's where the tie is between him and Philadelphia. And considering the fact that we need safety help, he could be an immediate impact player, coupled with a guy like Geno Stone, and then you have Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown. along with them, a veteran presence like Justin Simmons to help guide that safety room, that's a big deal. Being able to communicate what Vic Fangio wants out of the safety position, to play, not only that, playing his best football with Vic Fangio is a cachet move. That room all of a sudden would have a higher respect for Justin Simmons. He still has good football in him, still a ball hawk, damn good tackler. He's just a quality safety. And if you bring him in at $11 million, you're not totally losing a boatload of money here. You have $16 million left on the cap. He addresses a need. He brings a veteran presence in the locker room, played in big games before, been a part of really good defenses, and has been a part of a Vic Fangio defense, and can communicate everything that needs to be communicated on the back end for the safeties. Maybe you'd be able to teach Sidney Brown to rein it in a little bit, or to have Reed Blankenship be a little bit more instinctual on the football field and trust his guts a little bit more, right? So Justin Simmons is a quality player. Justin Simmons is a quality player. $11 million per year. Out of the 26 that was left, or 27 that was left, we have $16 million left with cap space, and you can use that now to address things in the draft, like drafting an edge, like getting an offensive tackle, maybe even a running back, potentially addressing a linebacker once again. A guy that I really like in the draft, who I believe is going to be a second-round projection, is Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. I feel like Philadelphia is going to look at him, and maybe he's going to fall to them. But really, the guy that I would want in the first round, there's two guys that I would want, actually. At edge, if somehow one of these two guys falls to us at 22, I'm ecstatic. Okay, not that this is a draft show per se, and we'll do that as we get closer to the draft. But the guy that I would want is Jared Verse from Florida State or Chop Robinson from Penn State. I think those two guys, if they come to Philadelphia, oh boy, you're cooking with something. You got a grease fire going on over here with those two guys. And if it's true that we are projected to get Bryce Huff and trade Josh Sweat and trade Hassan Reddick, if you come in to the new season with Geno Stone, Justin Simmons, Willie Gay, and then you draft a guy like Jared Verse or Chop Robinson, have Bryce Huff, all of a sudden, coupled with Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis has got to get his ass in shape, but we believe in his ability because he has ability. Plus Moro Ojomo as a rotation piece, and Tua Talupu as a rotation piece as well. All of a sudden, your front seven is young, super athletic, and is going to be under the tutelage of a Vic Fangio and Clinton Hurst. I mean, that is a damn scary unit if that's what you're going to roll with in Philadelphia next season. I'll tell you what, if that's the case, the NFC East might just be on lock if that's the case, considering that's going to be the front seven. But again, we don't know this to be sure. There's still a lot of time left here in free agency. We haven't even gotten to the signing period yet. There's a lot of moves that still need to be made, a lot of contracts that need to be negotiated. The draft hasn't happened yet. Many, many things can change the course of action here in Philadelphia. Whether or not we get a trade done with Hassan Reddick or trade Josh Sweat, it really all kind of depends on what Howie Roseman decides to do. But I feel like those would be the moves to really get us back on track here. I'm gonna repeat it one more time. Sign Geno Stone for $7 million as a projection. You sign Willie Gay, $7 million projection. You sign Justin Simmons, $11 million projection. And then go into the draft Jared Verse or Chop Robinson, and get Edgerrin Cooper in the second round. And then at that point, we'll do a draft show to address every other point in the draft. Because then you could go running back and get a cheaper running back. You can get a defensive back later in the draft because it's a very quality defensive back draft. You can get wide receiver 3 in the later rounds if you really, really want to do, because the wide receiver is loaded in the top 2-3 rounds of the draft. So you could even do that as well. Many, many options here for Howie Roseman. It's now time for the wizard, Howie Roseman, to come and do his thing. Let's see what he does. Hey, you got through the full episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, hit the like and subscribe button below. You can also check us out on Instagram at the Riding the Bench podcast with a K instead of C in the word podcast. And also check us out on audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. All of that is in the description below. Please come back next time for the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Thanks for listening.